Hi everyone, I'm Ting from National Taipei University of Technology. I'm excited to share our study titled Political Influence on Green Innovation. And in this paper, we look at how political connections affect green innovation in Chinese firms, especially after a big governance change. Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, so China plays a major role in global emissions, and improving the environmental performance is critical. So there's a twist. Political connections are everywhere in Chinese firms. Are they helping or hurting green innovation? We use a unique reform, Regulation 18, as a natural experiment to explore what happens when these connections are certainly cut off. So here's what we're asking. What happens to green innovation when firms lose their political ties? Second, do SOEs and non-SOEs respond differently? And third, are there internal financial changes that explain this? And finally, do things like investor type or firm age make a difference? So these questions sit right at the intersection of finance, governance, and ESG. So the contribution of these papers we make four main contributions to the literature on political connections, innovation, and sustainability in China. First, it looks at a missing piece, the impact of political relationships on firm innovation. Prior research has focused on CEO traits or managerial experience, but political ties are far less studied. Second, it shifts the lens from general innovation metrics like R&D, spending, or patent counts to green innovation, which is critical for long-term sustainability. And third, we show that in SOEs operating in HHO industries, that means high pollution, high consumption, and overcapacity industry. So in these industries, we try to find that political ties actually hurt innovation, mainly because resources are misallocated. This challenges earlier findings that political connections always boost innovation quantity. Finally, we extend prior work on Regulation 18, showing how this governance reform shapes green innovation, not just CSR or financial outcomes. So in our theoretical framework, there are two ways to think about political connections and green innovation. On the left, we have legitimacy theory. Political ties can be helpful. Firms use them to gain approval from governments and stakeholders, disclose environmental actions, and secure state support for sustainability initiatives. So legitimacy theory predicts innovation decline after disconnection. On the right, we have the resource curse theory. Political ties can hurt innovation. They foster rent-seeking, reduce regulatory pressure, and often divert resources to maintain political relationships instead of funding green R&D. Resource curse theory predicts innovation increase after disconnection. Rather than treating these theories as competing, we adopt a contingent framework. Their influence varies depending on firm's ownership, ownership structure, age, and the broader regulatory environment. So this perspective helps us understand the complex and sometimes contradictory effects of political connections on green innovation. So let's talk about non-SOEs first. These firms often count on political ties to get government subsidies, special treatment, and to show stakeholders they are well connected. But after Regulation 18 kicked in and politically connected directors had to step down, non-SOEs lost that critical link. Without those connections, it's hard for them to keep their legitimacy or secure funding. As a result, they are less motivated to spend on green innovation. That's why we expect their green innovation efforts to drop after Regulation 18. This is hypothesis 1. SOE has a different problem. They are too tied to politics. Connections with government officials can hurt innovation by encouraging rent-seeking, tunneling, and poor capital allocation. When Regulation 18 made politically connected director step down, it broke this pattern. For SOEs, this can lead to improved governance and reallocation of resources toward strategic priorities like green innovation. So we expect SOEs to increase their green innovation after the reform. This is our second hypothesis. And the third one, we consider industry. The role of industry is also crucial. Industries with high pollution, high consumption, and overcapacity, HHO industries, they face strict rules and close attention from stakeholders. Companies with political connections in these industries are more likely to adopt green innovations to lower their risk. Political connections let companies get subsidies more easily or avoid strict rule enforcement. When these ties are cut off, like with Regulation 18, it hurts their innovation more. Companies in cleaner industries, that means non-HHO industries, have fewer environmental rules, so they are not as affected. This leads to hypothesis 3, where we expect the reforms effect to be concentrated in HHO sectors. So this is the initial background. In China, firms often build political ties by putting government officials on their boards. Then in 2013, Regulation 18 banned that. Officials had to step down. This gives us a great chance to study what happens when those connections suddenly disappear and how it affects green innovation. So this is our data and sample. We focus on listed firms from 2010 to 2016, only those that disclose sustainability info. Political ties are based on whether they had politically connected independent directors. Green innovation is measured using a third-party ESG database. That gives us a panel of over 2,700 firm years. So here shows the variable definitions. The first one, that's the green innovation, our main variable. This is a score measures. And we also have other 5 different variables to measure politically connected independent directors. For example, we count total count of politically connected independent directors on the board. We also have a binary variable, the dummy, indicating whether there is a politically connected independent director. And we use 2 proportions of politically connected independent directors. One is to the total board size, the other one is to the total number of independent directors. The last one is a composite in political connection index. In this index, we consider their administration level of different directors. So that's the main variables. And here is our empirical strategy. We use a difference in differences setup. Companies before and after, we use this post variable. And we also consider firms between firms with or without political connections, So that's PC variable. We also control for firm level characteristics like firm size, age, leverage, ROA, R&D. Plus, we look at separately at SOEs versus non-SOEs, HHO, that is pollution heavy industries, versus non-HHO, that is cleaner industries. So here's the summary statistics. I only show the main variables in our study. And first, that's our DID regression. In panel A, it shows the results for non-SOEs. We use green innovation as our dependent variable. And as you can see, actually this interaction term is insignificant in all the regression. And panel B, we use SOEs as sample, and still we didn't find significant results in the interaction term. So based on that, we further consider the industry. So HHO industries, we separate them, the sample into two subsamples. For each model, we separate them into two subsamples. One is pollution heavy industry, when HHO equals 1, and the other is HHO equals 0, that's cleaner industries. So in panel A, when we use non-SOEs as our sample, and we find that non-SOEs in HHO industries, green innovation decline post-regulation. You can see from model 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, we find negative coefficients. And in panel B, when we use SOEs as our sample, we can find SOEs also in HHO industries. They have positive coefficients, so that means green innovation increased post-regulation. So the main finding of the previous DID regression, we find that in non-SOEs, especially in high pollution industries, green innovation dropped after the reform. And for SSOEs, we find the innovation actually increased. So political ties seem to help non-SOEs with legitimacy, but hurt SOEs by allowing rent seeking. We ran a full set of robustness checks. For example, we consider different definition of green innovation and political connection. We consider match sample, entropy balancing, dynamic DID, and three-way interaction. The results are consistent across the board that give us a confidence in our main findings. So after the main finding and the robustness check, we consider moderator analysis. So we consider two moderators. So we focus on whether we focus these two moderators with strong theoretical backing. One is moderator role of Q-phi, and the other one is firm age. First, Q-phi presents represent pressure from sophisticated foreign institutional investors, which often demand stronger ESG compliance. This fits well within legitimacy theory. And second, that's firm age. Firm age is linked to institutional maturity and policy responsiveness. Older firms may have more structured processes and are better equipped to shift resources away from rent-seeking and toward innovation. An idea consistent with the resource curse theory, perspective. So we run the DID regression results for SOEs. And so here from panel A, that's we consider Q-phi. So we separate the two subsamples for each model when Q-phi presents or not. And the Y remains green innovation. And we can see for when Q-phi presents, that means when SOEs with Q-phi, the interaction term, coefficients for interaction terms are positive. So these results suggest that foreign institutional investors strengthen innovation response. And from panel B, we separate the subsamples based on firm age, whether that's an old firm or a young firm. So older firm, we can see the positive results for old firms. So that means older SOEs show stronger innovation gains post-reform. So this result reflects institutional capacity to reallocate resources after political de-entrenchment. So in the previous slide, when we consider moderating analysis, we can find that both QFE and firm age significantly condition the post-reform response. Specifically, SOEs with QFE improve innovation more sharply, and older SOEs respond more effectively than younger ones. So these results reinforce our interpretation and highlight the role of both internal structure and external governance in ESG transitions. So after the moderating analysis, we continue to do some mechanism analysis. We wanted to see why Regulation 18 changes green innovation. We look at how it affects firms' finance. We consider three variables: leverage, ROA, and EPS. Leverage. Political ties often open doors to cheap loans or subsidies. Without those ties, funding may dry up, limiting green projects. ROA, profitable firms can keep investing in innovation. Low profits make it harder. And finally, EPS, overall financial strength matters too. So as political ties sometimes divert money away from R&D. By checking these three factors, we see how losing political ties reshapes a firm's ability to invest in green innovation. So from the following table, we use different mechanisms. So for example, like panel A, we use leverage as dependent variable. And in the model, we consider three-way interaction, because in this model, we include all the variables, all the firms, including SOEs and non-SOEs. So for this one, we have the interaction term, that's PC times post times SOE. So this shows the result for SOE, and the next one will show the result for non-SOE. So for the for this role, we can see that when we use leverage as dependent variable, we can find that the coefficients, mainly they are positive. So that means leverage increases post Regulation 18 for SOE's company. More funding capacity for green innovation. And for non-SOE, we can see the coefficients are insignificant, so leverage remain unchanged. So it shows the limited investment flexibility. So that's for panel A, using leverage as dependent variable. And then panel B, we use ROA as dependent variable. So we can see the this row, it shows positive coefficient, and for PC times post, for non-SOE is negative. And also for panel C, when we use EPS as dependent variable, we can see this interaction term, they are also positive. So the pattern is quite similar when we use EPS and ROA. And for this row, it also shows the negative coefficient. So to sum up what we find from the mechanism analysis, we find that after Regulation 18, SOEs benefited financially. Their leverage increased, profitability improved, and they have more capacity to channel funds into green projects. So that's for SOEs. And for non-SOEs, it was the opposite story. Losing political ties meant no extra financing support, making it harder for them to invest in green innovation. So the contrast This contrast explains why we see SOEs ramping up their green initiatives post-reform, while non-SOE fell behind. So after we do lots of analysis, as you can see, the main result, a lot of robustness check and monetary analysis and mechanism analysis. So here I'd like to conclude our finding. This study asked a simple but important question: what happens to green innovation when political ties are cut off? We analyzed Regulation 18 in China, which forced politically connected directors to step down and adopt a dual theory approach. Those are legitimacy theory and resource curse theory. And we find a split effect for non-SOEs, especially in high pollution industries, lost legitimacy and access to state support, so their green innovation declined. SOEs, free from rent-seeking pressures, improved financial flexibility and boosted innovation. We also show the investor structure QFI and firm age make a differences in how firms adapt to political reforms. And finally, in our mechanisms analysis, we find leverage ROA EPS improved for SOEs, but worsened for non-SOEs without political support. Thank you for your attention. Yeah, so is there any question or comment about this paper?
It was a brilliant presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, okay.